families with lived experiences. I first became involved in politics and advocacy because of parents' rights issues. And the trauma of when the system gets it wrong. As chair of the Human Services Committee, which oversees the CPS system, we know that child abuse is real. And there are really bad people who commit heinous crimes against children. We also see the devastation that occurs when the system gets it wrong and families are falsely accused and torn apart. We see these cases even more as we see an increase in medically fragile and chronically ill children, which has been a focus of mine and the MAHA Make America Healthy Again movement. We remove life-sustaining treatment without proper consent or knowledge by her father, Robert, who was the only one with the legal right to do so, in violation of Nikki and Robert's rights. He was immediately suspected of child abuse with no alternative explanations investigated. And it was determined that his rights didn't matter, but that is not how due process or our legal system are supposed to work. This is both a parent's rights and pro-life issue. Often in child abuse cases, we see good people who work in the system and spend their careers witnessing horrific abuse against children come to see everyone through that lens, which is what happened in Robert's case and is still happening to this day. Because of these blinders, there was a lack of objectivity and a biased investigation throughout every part of this process, including his own publicly appointed trial attorney, who simply agreed with the prosecution that this was a classic shaken baby case. Brian Morton, the lead investigator who is now advocating for Robert, has admitted that their own bias kept them from investigating any alternatives other than he shook his child. These types of child abuse allegations still occur today, as does the rush to remove life-sustaining treatment from children by pressuring families or circumventing parents' rights. Nikki's life-sustaining treatment was withdrawn by family members who knew they didn't have the legal authority to consent, and without Robert's knowledge, while he sat in a jail cell without a criminal attorney to represent him and with his parental rights still intact. That should terrify every parent. Her diagnosis of shaken baby syndrome was rushed, and the autopsy was conducted without reviewing complete medical records and based on the presumption of abuse. While an investigator stood in the room telling the medical examiner about the shaken baby syndrome diagnosis and that the father had already been arrested. I and other members of the legislature have passed pro-life laws to protect patients' rights to life-sustaining treatment and guarantee due process for end-of-life and parental rights, including in cases of misdiagnosis of child abuse, but families still suffer the consequences of these wrongful and false diagnoses of abuse and attempts to withdraw life-sustaining treatment to this day. Robert deserves an unbiased and fair trial where all of the evidence, including exculpatory evidence that has never been presented to a jury, is weighed and considered. Our justice system demands due process and a fair trial. Robert had neither. We are all flawed humans, and our systems are no better than we are. Sometimes we get things wrong. But as a society, it is incumbent upon us to be part of the judicial process. Our country and our justice system depend on this. We have an opportunity to get this trial right, a fair trial, for Nikki, Robert, and any family who has been or may yet be facing accusations of child abuse. I'm going to turn it over to to the advocates and families here today whose stories demonstrate that this is a very real problem that any family in Texas can face. We're going to start with John Sego with Texas Right to Life, who will share about their work helping families advocate for patients and families' rights around life-sustaining treatments, which is an important aspect of this case, and we will have time for questions in the end.